great importance in the new COVID-19 pandemic era. Now more than ever, we truly value health. How does nutrition play a role in health maintenance? And what does immunity really mean? Let's look at this in 3 parts, and I'll stop after each part to allow for some questions. And then, of course, we'll have questions at the end. And there'll also be at immunity, how it is affected by age and nutrients to support its efficacy. Then the microbiome, and finally, mindful approaches to optimizing well-being from a nutrition perspective. The 3 M's of nutritional health is a way of describing these 3 aspects. First, let's look at diet pattern and immunity. Immunity changes with age and overall health status. Chronic inflammation or inflammaging is recognized as having a negative effect. The second M refers to microbiome. As more than half of the immune cells are found in the gastrointestinal tract, this is important. Microbial diversity describes the health of this aspect of immunity. We will look at how this is affected by diet and lifestyle. The third M describes mindfulness and food choices to support our specific needs. This is how integrative medicine supports immunity, health, and well-being. So the immune system is how we define and delineate self from not self. It provides our unique molecular identity and is constantly in flux as we attune to our environment. Innate or natural immunity contrasts with adaptive immunity, which is acquired and specific. The main cell types involved are called B and T cells and are named for their origin. B for bursa or bone marrow, and T for thymus. Humoral immunity is from the serum or bodily fluids, in contrast to cellular. Passive immunity is exemplified by an infant receiving its mother's learned or acquired immunity via breast milk. This is thought to act as a starter culture for a baby's microbiome. Active immunity develops after exposure to a disease or as a result of vaccination. The new practice of providing antibodies donated from those who have survived COVID-19 to those who are infected would be an active immunity provided in a passive manner. In health, immune cells define us in a dynamic state of recognition of potential pathogens, removal of harmful or potentially toxic agents, and maintenance of functional mucosal barriers. The gut mucosal lining is of a special importance in this. B cells formed in the bone marrow are active in the fluids, and T cells are found in both fluids and as discrete cells. Nutrients needed for healthy white cell production include protein, essential fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals. Recognition of cells involves polysaccharides as glycoproteins and glycolipids. These help to form receptor recognition patterns and are essential parts of healthy immune action. Many of us are familiar with blood tests. These tests accompany most health checkups and are repeated for cancer patients every time they receive chemotherapy. A CBC, or complete blood count, quantifies how many leukocytes, or white cells, are being formed. We separate out by spinning the white cells from the red cells and the platelets. Further separation helps identify if one particular type of white cell is out of the normal range. An example of this would be an elevated white count and a higher percentage of eosinophils, which may indicate allergies. Immunity in disease includes altered numbers of cells, effective recognition of pathogens, and autoimmunity is when our own immune system sees self as not self or foreign and attacks our own cells as though they were harmful. Allergies are when our immune system overreacts by distorting production of cells. A lack of tolerance results. Cancers may arise due to mutations in some cells that affect healthy immune recognition and response. And these are some examples of cancers of the immune system: lymphomas, leukemias, myelomas, and solid tumors affecting production of immune cells, for example, a thymoma, that's cancer in the thymus gland. During birth, initial inoculation of the microbiome begins, and an infant's digestive system starts to learn about its environment. Colostrum is a rich source of recognition proteins called immunoglobulins and is found in the milk of mammals for the first few days after birth. Developmental windows are short periods of life when the environment plays a vital role in programming later life immunity. In utero, in the first few months of life, and at puberty are thought to be such time periods when the environment affects immunity in a profound manner. Maturity of the immune system is thought to occur at about 18 years of age. However, vaccine boosters to protect against some pathogens may be needed throughout life. Immunity changes with age. Defenses lose flexibility and diversity over time, and this is called immunosenescence. Immunosenescence describes how immunity decreases with age. We know that it is those who are over the age of 60 who run the greatest risk of serious side effects from COVID-19, for example. T-cell activity and an ability to maintain health increases until adulthood and then decreases over the age of 60. T-cells are divided into two main groups: CD4+ or T helper and CD8+, T suppressor cells. A balance of each is required for health. T-cells are a very active area of immunity research, with many subsets being recognized, including memory T-cells. And you may have heard of CAR T-cells, recent Nobel Prize winners for determining how to actually edit genes and create T-cells that are very beneficial. Inflammation is a normal part of an acute immune response to a pathogen. It describes how white cells migrate to an area under attack to bring heat, activity, and possibly result in swelling before resolution and healing. Chronic inflammation is associated with a variety of conditions, including autoimmune conditions, some viruses, and certain forms of body fat called visceral adipose tissue, found in the center of the body of those who are overweight or obese or vulnerable to forming it. This is sometimes called belly fat. And I always like to say it's a health risk, whereas fat on the thighs is more of a beauty risk. Cancer risk is associated with chronic inflammation. Beneficial nutritional components, also called bioactives, may help balance under and overproduction of inflammation. Foods that support healthy immunity contain sulfur amino acids, including a relatively rare peptide called gamma-glutamyl cysteine, which is found in egg whites and whey protein. This peptide is very important for T cell production, and it was first identified when HIV positivity was first identified in the 80s, and which is one reason why whey protein became so popular for immune support. Oxidative stress is an imbalance between oxidation and antioxidation, and is best resolved with high antioxidant-rich foods such as berries and other dark pigmented fruits. Anti-inflammatory rich foods include salmon and other oily fish, as well as walnuts. A teaspoon of walnut oil added to salad dressing, for example, is a great way to add anti-inflammatory precursors to your diet. Walnuts are the richest of all nuts in omega-3 ALA. So healthy nutrition is a balance of nutrients and energy. Too many calories without enough nutrients may result in excess body fat, especially in the center of the body, the so-called belly fat. This type of fat is associated with chronic inflammation, and as we saw, chronic inflammation is associated with certain cancers. Malnutrition also may result in chronic inflammation due to inefficient immunity, because the immune system is not getting the nutrients needed to be fully active. A pattern of eating that is most consistently associated with health and longevity is called the Mediterranean diet. And no, you don't have to live in Italy, Spain, or Greece to enjoy its benefits, but plenty of extra virgin olive oil is a key feature. And diets high in olives and olive oil are associated in certain communities with lower rates of breast cancer. So what are key features of this eating pattern? It's moderately high in fish. It had very low intake of dairy products, meat, and poultry. There are no refried or processed foods, and very limited amounts of added sugars. Naturally occurring sugars in fruit and honey are consumed in small quantities only. Let's now look at the second M of nutritional health. High-resolution imaging and new detection methods have expanded our understanding of immunity, adding trillions of microbes at the interface between self and not self. Let's look now at how these microbes exist in various ecosystems, with a special focus on the gut microbiome, or those microbes that live in the large intestine. Healthy microbiomes, also known as microbiota, are central to nutritional health. Here we see how all components are linked together to support wellness. When we talk about the microbiome, we're usually talking about the gut microbiome, but there are individual, very separate, different ecosystems of microbes in the mouth, on the skin, in the vagina. These are all very different and very unique to each individual. The gut microbiome is sometimes called the hidden organ. It is estimated to weigh approximately the same as the brain. There is a symbiotic relationship between us as hosts and the microbes. Each of us has an individual and distinctive pattern. At least 1,000 species of microbes are found in the gut, nourished by our diet and their own ecosystem. The health and diversity are supported by fiber from plants and provide nutrients in the form of short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate. An estimated 65% of immune cells are found in organized structures called Peyer's patches, or gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GALT, in the mucous lining of the colon. Rob Knight, a researcher at UC San Diego, has kindly shared this information from the MicroSETA initiative, an international collaboration to learn more about the microbiome with a new focus on SARS-CoV-2, the virus causing COVID-19. Citizen scientists donate samples from fecal, nasal, oral, and skin swabs. This graph shows how those who eat more than 30 different plant species a week have a more diverse gut microbiome than those eating less than 10, which of course is a typical Western diet. Diversity is seen as a marker for overall health and well-being. And I recently read that low diversity of the microbiome in the gut is associated with an increased risk of celiac disease, which of course we have seen an increase of in the last few decades. Celiac disease meaning gluten sensitivity or intolerance. So prebiotics or complex carbohydrates are how the microbes thrive. And over the centuries, in many, many communities, vegetables and other foods, including, of course, yeast, are fermented. And fermentation appears to provide the nutrients in the short form of short-chain fatty acids that support a healthy microbiome. Bad germs or pathogens have characteristics such as severity of impact, how we are infected, and how long we have immunity or protection. Good germs or probiotics support our health. So I think there's a little confusion sometimes between whether a germ is a good thing or a bad thing, but a not so good germ is called a pathogen and a good one is a probiotic. SARS-CoV-2 is a new virus that our immune system has not seen before. It is a coronavirus, a group of viruses that make up about 25% of the kind of viruses that cause the common cold. Tests to detect viral particles can tell if you have an active infection, even in the absence of symptoms. Serological tests can detect a response to viral infection. There is an interaction between T and B cells, and memory T cells are thought to play an important role in recovery and immunity. T cells are probably the most active area of research right now, and when we're looking at how people respond after a infection, it is the T cells that appear to be the most important, but we're still learning a lot about it. So dietary fiber or prebiotics not only provide nutrients for the probiotics to thrive, but it also delays the entry of simple sugars into the bloodstream, flattening the curve of circulating glucose and sensitizing cells to an insulin response. This lowers what's called the glycemic load of a meal or snack. And what I would recommend is that every time you do have some calories, whether it's a meal or a snack, you make sure that there's fiber in there, because that way you actually support your microbiome. Okay, so this is the third M of nutritional health, and we may see this challenge of COVID-19 as a motivator for us to focus on optimizing our health. Let's look at what we can do on a personal level now to enhance resilience. What food choices are smart for us to make now? We saw in the first section how immune cells need protein, essential fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals, and suggested a few foods that support immune health. What health statistics or data would be helpful for you to know at this time for yourself and your family? There are some modifiable risk factors, such as waist circumference. Half your height or less is a good guideline. If it is more than that, you may have some belly fat, the type of fat that may lead to chronic inflammation, something we should avoid whenever possible. High blood pressure is another risk factor. Glucose control, as estimated by hemoglobin A1C, fasting glucose itself, and fasting insulin, if the first two are elevated. Vitamin D appears to be especially important. it is recommended that you learn your serum level. Several observational studies of COVID-19 risk and vitamin D levels in multiple countries have linked low vitamin D with higher risk of severe disease and mortality. Ongoing studies continue to clarify such a relationship. Blood lipids, such as cholesterol and triglycerides, are also useful levels to know. If triglycerides are very high, this affects the viscosity of the blood, and this may also affect COVID-19 symptoms. Age, gender, ethnicity, and blood type are non-modifiable factors, but are of value in assessing your risk. If you are over 60, a male, of African American or Latino descent, and not blood group O, you may be at a higher risk for severe symptoms. We are learning more about risk factors every day. So let's say you are at a higher risk, then here are a few suggestions from the Centers for Disease Control. Keep an eye on your local infection rate. Socialize outside, always at a safe distance, and definitely wear a mask. So putting all this together in an integrated way means eating a diet low in toxins, rich in nutrients, full of colorful vegetables, olives, nuts, fruits, culinary herbs, and low in simple carbohydrates or added sugars. We would also choose berries and mushrooms often, omega-3 rich foods that are anti-inflammatory daily, and drink tea. As you may have guessed from my accent, I'm originally from England, and tea is our national drink. Let's say you are infected, or someone you love becomes infected. What are some smart choices to make? Rest is the most important thing. Extreme fatigue is a universal symptom of those affected by the virus. Eat foods rich in naturally occurring anti-inflammatory and anticoagulant activity, such as nuts and seeds, oily fish, and culinary herbs. These are all rich in beneficial bioactives. For those who have high blood sugar, intermittent fasting may be beneficial. Limit eating to an 8-hour window and stay hydrated for the rest of the time. Immune responses include cell breakdown, release of metabolites, and recycling and removal of cellular components. Detoxification is a term used for removal of what is not helpful for new healthy cells. And the microbiome plays a central role in our overall well-being and recovery. Foods that support recovery provide nutrients to build glutathione, an essential part of liver and kidney detoxification processes. Egg whites, whey protein, and avocado are excellent sources of the precursor peptide gamma-glutamyl cysteine, which I mentioned earlier. Other foods containing glutathione include vegetables from the garlic family and the cabbage family, asparagus, and watermelon. Recovery depends on a strong foundation built on wellness principles: sleep and relaxation, protein, and hydration. Sleep and relaxation allow our immune system to be focused and effective. We have many tools available today to help manage stress: mindfulness, meditation, sleep optimization, breath work, centering activities, and of course, good nutrition. Protein is usually associated with B vitamins, iron, zinc, and other immune supportive nutrients. And here are a few ways to ensure you are getting enough on a daily basis. For most people, that is equivalent to about 8 ounces of fish, chicken, or lean meat, or about 3 times as much plant-based proteins like beans, nuts, and seeds, or quinoa. And these are just some examples of some foods rich in protein. Hydration is especially important. As taste and smell are commonly lost with COVID infection, here are some ideas for visual appeals to drink enough fluids. And of course, people going through chemotherapy often have taste changes, so food doesn't taste so good, and then adding different fruits or different mixes may help with the liquids. It is important, though, not to drink too many liquids after 6 in the evening, because then you might disturb your sleep, and we know how important sleep is. So coming back to this foundation, I can add vegetables from the cabbage family, like broccoli, the garlic family or allium family, like garlic, and berries. And then the cherry on the top is what I call the dietary supplements. And for many people, they're focused so much on the cherry on the top, but we have to have the foundation. Like any strong building, without a strong foundation, the top part is not going to be important. The garlic and cabbage families are rich in sulfur amino acids and support glutathione and detoxification processes, key components of health, especially when immunity is ramped up. So we think about the garlic family and the cabbage family, and think about the importance of sulfur compounds and that peptide gamma-glutamyl cysteine. Berries of all kinds, particularly those with dark pigments, help immune functioning. Elderberries have a long tradition of being used as therapy for influenza and cold viruses. The third M is also for mindfulness, especially in relation to our eating. This practice optimizes the first phase of digestion, also known as cerebral or brain-centered phase, by focusing on smell, taste, and texture. We honor and value the nourishment offered. A blessing or other ritual is also valuable. This is how we attune ourselves for well-being and let whole body is ready for nourishment. So now